Let's start off by talking about the far end of the avoidant part of the scale, which is dismissive avoidant. For a dismissive avoidant, their core wound is having needs is a burden. It's not safe to have needs. I can only rely on myself. If I'm too close, it's not safe, or it gets to be overwhelming. They usually learn that any kind of vulnerability leads to disappointment, loss of autonomy, loss of power, punishment even, definitely invalidation, maybe even mocking. Usually with a dismissive avoidant, their caregivers are pretty emotionally unavailable. They're physically present. They show up to the games. They come to the events. They make sure you have clean laundry and food, and they get you to all of your activities. They make sure your homework's done. They're in your life. But their presence in your life, emotionally, with their attention, the quality of that attention, is lacking. Usually, for a dismissive avoidant, their parents have really high expectations for their independence. So this will happen a lot with large families, with the oldest in a large family, or even a small family with the oldest. Sometimes it'll happen more with men because culturally men are rewarded for not really expressing their needs, for not having these vulnerable emotions. Think of it. Don't be a girl. Oh, you're just being too emotional. Like, men are rewarded from a very young age for shoving down their feelings, disconnecting from their emotions, and just pretending like they don't have any needs. And usually they dress this up as, I'm chill. I'm fine. Like, I'm even. I don't know what's wrong with you. Because I'm fine. You're being a little crazy right now. That's sort of the dismissive avoidant way. It comes off very, very cool, though. You might see them as very steady. At least at first in a relationship, they'll usually appear that way. It's over time that you realize that the dismissive avoidant is not exactly calm, but they're more like repressing. They're pushing it down and pretending to be fine when really they're not. And they usually don't even know they're doing this. It's just because no one ever taught them how to tune into their emotions and then care for them and deal with them and get those needs that they have met. At least not without punishment. Usually parents of dismissive avoidant children are praising performance over emotions, and they prefer for their kids to achieve. They like the reflection that it gives them to see their kids high achieving. They're not really interested in dealing with your vulnerable emotions. They might make fun of them or invalidate them, or compare you to someone else to get you to stop bringing it up. Any number of things. It really just boils down to a pattern of consistent, pervasive emotional neglect that really on its face doesn't look that bad at all. So most of the dismissive avoidants that I work with tell me their childhood was idyllic. They're very clear that, my parents were there for me. They were, always in the room and doing the things, working hard. And they're usually very resistant to the idea that maybe they were emotionally neglected in some way. If this fits you, it's something to think about, something to really consider. You don't have to learn to hate your parents or be mad at them in order to be honest with yourself about how the way they treated you impacted you. And I would guess most of my audience is somebody who has lived with somebody like this, not necessarily someone who is someone like this. Whether you are or not, welcome here. Being a dismissive avoidant is very unintentionally the root of a lot of pain for your loved ones, and you're dealing with a lot of pain that you haven't even recognized within yourself yet. So whether you are dismissive avoidant or are healing from one, welcome here. The strategies we use here will help you figure out how to reconnect to your pain and get honest with yourself about what you need, and unburdening yourself of thinking that needs are a burden. One of the things to be aware of as an adult that has dismissive avoidant patterns is you are going to want connection, and then you are going to be uncomfortable with it as soon as you have it. As soon as the expectation level increases, the vulnerability increases. True healthy relationships require vulnerability and connection, requires trust. It requires interdependence, and those very things are very dysregulating for a dismissive avoidant. So if you're the kind of person that tends to reach out and want to meet lots of new people and get the excitement of a new relationship, but then you find it increasingly uncomfortable the closer you get to that person, you might be a dismissive avoidant.